common question is about food intolerances. I usually test most of my patients for food intolerances because I find it really important. And I will be talking a little bit about what food intolerances are, why they are a problem, and why it's so important to address this issue, in my opinion. So there's a few different parts to the story. One is just a genetic weakness. Some people have a genetic mutation that they're just not that good with gluten or with dairy, either or both. But there are some people that don't have a genetic problem there, and they might be totally fine with gluten and dairy, even though gluten isn't great for anyone because it has this kind of super glue that is not good for our gut lining. If you're not intolerant or allergic to gluten, it's totally fine to have it in small amounts here and there as part of your carb intake, and you don't have to completely cut it out. Same with dairy. Dairy, if you're not intolerant or allergic to it, has some healthy components which are good in small amounts. Just make sure that you're testing your blood sometimes, your predictive biomarkers, your cholesterol, your testosterone, your estrogen, because they can sometimes go up if you're using too much of it. So just as part of a balanced diet, those things I'm not usually cutting out unless you need to cut them out specifically for you. But what about food intolerances to otherwise healthy foods, let's say broccoli or eggs? I see a lot of my patients have intolerances to certain healthy foods. Why is this happening, and why is this a problem? So a lot of people have heard of that layman's term, leaky gut, and it is actually a thing. Our gut lining generally should be really tight and healthy. So if we eat food, let's say we eat broccoli, the body first breaks it down into small particles, and once they're really small, only then can they pass through that lining into the bloodstream. In the bloodstream, the immune system in there, the cells say, oh, I know this, no problem, all good. Now, if for some reason, and I'll go to the reasons in a moment, this gut lining becomes a little bit more permeable, leaky, and there's more intestinal permeability, then all of a sudden bigger pieces of that same broccoli are passing through into the bloodstream, and all of a sudden they look different to the immune system. And the immune system says, wait, I don't understand this, I don't recognize this. This must be an invader, like a virus or a parasite or a bacteria. I need to attack this. And then it starts to create an immune response against this food particle, which should have been totally fine. And this immune response is an inflammation. That's what our body does. If there is some invader, it creates inflammation to get rid of it. Now, if this happens every day or most days over a long time, our immune system constantly gets irritated and gets slightly inflamed. And there are two parts to that problem. I've got other videos on the problems of inflammation. It's linked to anxiety, depression, but also long-term down the line, things like cancers and Alzheimer's and cardiovascular disease, lots of things. So we don't want that. We don't want that lingering low-grade inflammation. What happens on the other side is if our immune system is constantly overreactive and overstimulated, it at some point it might say, well, now I'm so confused. I don't really know what friend or foe is anymore. I'm just going to start attacking other things. And that's when an autoimmune condition can happen. It's usually a contributing factor, not the only thing, but that could be it's usually what I see in patients is a big contributing factor. And then it goes to where you have your genetic weakness again. It could be your thyroid. That's why people say, oh, it runs in the family. It could be a genetic weakness towards alopecia or eczema or rheumatoid arthritis. Wherever you have your weakness, your immune system might start to attack itself. And then you have an autoimmune disease, which is not fun. We'll talk about autoimmunity in a separate video. Today we're talking mainly about food intolerances. But a reason why the immune system can become overreactive is usually that there's something triggering the immune system. So food intolerances could also be infections, and it can also be that there are not enough nutrients to calm the immune system down. So that's the next part of that food intolerance puzzle. Why did we have a gut lining problem in the first place, and how can we calm down the immune system so it doesn't happen in future? So temporarily, you will have to cut out the foods that you are intolerant to so that the immune system can calm down. But on the next level, you have to also make sure that you heal your gut and your immune system so that it doesn't happen to the next food, an apple or whatever else you're eating a lot from. So the next part is to remove triggers that make this lining leaky, this gut, intestinal lining permeable. We want to make that strong and healthy again. So some of the reasons why that can be more permeable, more leaky, are stress, big one. It changes the immune system inside our gut and the lining. Excess alcohol, antibiotics, excess fatty food, excess chunk food, not healthy fats, excess chunk carbohydrates. Just there's lots of reasons for it, so you want to remove them. You want to target which one your problem is and remove them. The next thing you want to do is if there's an infection in the gut that might make this more leaky. So oftentimes there's candida, a certain type of yeast overgrowth, or there's some other bacterial infections, or the wrong kind of bacteria and not enough of the good bacteria, and they make that gut lining less strong and healthy and more permeable. You want to remove those. And then you want to give your body the right nutrients to rebuild the gut lining, but also to calm the immune system. So I often see that people are low in vitamin D and zinc, and also vitamin A. Those are really important to calm the immune system down, to get it strong, but be able to calm down when it's basically not needed anymore. And then also have that gut lining, that mucosal lining being strong and healthy. So those are just a few of the things that I would do to address a food intolerance problem. You can't just cut out the food and then continue your life, because you might develop new ones. You have to address the underlying trigger. And then you can hopefully, once the immune system is calm, everything is healthy, you can hopefully reintegrate those healthy foods unless there are genetic problems. If you have questions, comment in the video below, and I will comment below the video, and I will try and address them as much as I can.